Okay. Hello, welcome to another webinar by Proximity Learning. I'm Dr. April Willis, and I'm really excited to be here with you today. We are actually starting off a new 4-part series for our New Jersey administrators. And so each one of these webinars are going to have a special guest in them who is a New Jersey superintendent. And we are starting today with Dr. Noreen Lyshak. Thank you so much for being here, Noreen. Would you take just a moment to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure, April, thank you so much. And thank you for referring to me as a special guest. I feel special to be invited. I am the superintendent of the South Plainfield School District in Middlesex County, New Jersey. I have been superintendent since July of 2016. So I lived through the pandemic as the superintendent, and that really has shaped how we're instructing our students in the classroom and beyond, and what we'll be talking about today. I spent my time as a teacher in beautiful Elizabeth, New Jersey, where I was born and raised. I was a teacher there. I moved up to Warren County, New Jersey, and then over to Union Township as the assistant superintendent for curriculum and instruction, and everything that involves. So I am well versed in curriculum and instruction and what our students need. And this is something that's helping our students. So I appreciate you inviting me to be a part of this.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for the background. It's really helpful to understand the context in which you have served in education before, and then how you're going to be able to contribute to this conversation today. We want to remind everybody, this is not a sales pitch. We are not here trying to pitch proximity to you. However, we are here to share stories of what's working and what's not necessarily working, and how we can continue to navigate a really complex educational environment right now. And so we are going to talk a little bit about what Proximity's relationship has been with Dr. Noreen's district, and we're going to hear some of her perspective on that. And we're also going to talk about some of the things that might have been opportunities for growth and learning in the future as well. So we'll jump right in with our first question. So what was the determining factor in the district decision to use a live online student support platform?
We have always offered in our district the opportunity for our students to receive additional support, whether it was during the school day or it was after school. But like most districts, we struggled with having students be available after school in order to take advantage of it. The students, in order to be a well-rounded person, they don't just concentrate completely on academics. They have other outside clubs, they have sports, things that make them, viable or good as citizens moving forward. So making that decision to participate. And with having our own teachers provided, and they're fantastic, they were available after school, but it wasn't always the best option for the students. So we thought, what can we do in order to make it more available to the students? Well, after we are all coming back from the pandemic, and we know that our students have experienced, not just in my district, but New Jersey, throughout the country, some serious academic loss that they were experienced. So we knew that we had to provide something more for our students, and we had to make it a little bit more convenient in order for them to want to take part in it. And it had to take place in real time. It had to focus on an area where they were, struggling. So it couldn't just be, let's just take a canned program and move forward, just like if they had their teacher in front of them that was teaching them their math or language arts during the day. It would be, let's talk about what's happening in the classroom today and how we can move forward and help the students. So that's what really drove us into finding another option beyond the school day with a live instructor.
Great. So it sounds like you all were prioritizing convenience for the students. We're also prioritizing live instruction. So we know sometimes, like the talking head programs, they're used, and they've been used for many years. We don't necessarily see the same level of student growth with programs like that. And we also know that we needed it. Would you say it would be more of a priority for remediation purposes?
You know what? It runs the gamut in our school district. We opened up the program to anybody who would like to attend. So our focus, we really did look at those students who were not doing well. We focused on them. We have that outlined in our program. But if you had a student who happened to be in an AP class, or somebody that was in an honors class, and they just had something they needed to go over, or maybe they had a test coming up and they were worried about it, it was also open to those students so that they could get that little extra foundation to move forward, that little extra boost of confidence
Well, that sounds
move them
really
on.
helpful. Were there specific subjects that you were utilizing?
We did. So where we found, although our students were struggling in different grade levels, we decided to focus on the math offerings in both the middle school and the high school. That's where we saw the most slide when we returned back. So our students seem to be suffering various courses. So it went everything from 8th grade math to pre-algebra, algebra 2, geometry. That's really where the students struggled. And they're the requirements in our New Jersey high school graduation that these students must participate and pass the course and pass the state test. So we focused on, at least at this point, we focused on those math courses.
Perfect. Thanks for sharing. Well, had you tried other programs and how did they work for the district?
So we did, like I mentioned, we did have the opportunity for our own teachers to provide the service. And for some students, it worked very well. So I can't say that there's any issue with having one of our own students provide the support. The issue was having the attendance, having the students attend after school. So that was really, would have been in a perfect world, that was a perfect option. But this isn't a perfect world. And convenience is important to our students and families in the district. So then we actually did try another program, which I won't mention. It was a fine program. The issue was they followed a pacing guide, our pacing guide. They followed the pacing guide and they followed curriculum, but it doesn't necessarily mean the student that's in there is on that same, they may be in class on the same guide, but they're steps behind. They need to build that foundation. So we wanted a program that worked with the student where they were. So in this particular case, I can have a number of students in the classroom. They're all at a little bit different of a level, and that teacher is meeting them at their level. They want to go over something that happened in class today, or they want to go over something that they weren't really strong in a couple of weeks ago, and they need to keep building on that. So it allows it to be more fluid and more, just meeting the students where they are.
I love that because we know that everybody's learning at a different pace. And so being able to have this very individualized instruction, meeting the needs of the students, like you said, where they're at, that's so important. I know when you were talking about attendance, are you talking about students were not always able to attend after school tutoring with their teachers? So when would you implement this tutoring? When would this happen during the day?
So we don't actually use this program during the day. During the day, we have an option in our schools where our students can come in and they receive intervention directly from their teacher. But then we have it at various times during after school hours. So we have, I'll just use an example. We might have geometry on Tuesday is at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, but then it's also offered at 6 o'clock on a Thursday. So if you have, it's spring, so you're either in softball, you might be in baseball, that we're doing our plays, we're doing all these things that our students really need to be a part of. It's a great part of their extracurricular activity. It's a part of the high school experience. So if you have somebody who's struggling in one of their academic courses, and then you say, in addition to struggling, we're going to offer you help, but only at the time that's convenient for us, and you're going to be excluded from all these other things. It's just not building a whole person. It's just not building the whole child. You have to really take a look at what is going to make somebody want to attend. Well, if you make it convenient and it's after, listen, I'm back from baseball practice. Well, my softball, I didn't have a softball game, whatever club finished at 5 o'clock. So it's the option that they can, just log on and it's there for them. We actually start a class as late as, I believe one starts as late as 7 or 7:30. For one of our high school classes, because that's what works. And you have to keep in mind, offering this class on different days works out well too, because a lot of our high school students work.
Yeah, I love how you put it. That was just so well said about, we don't want to punish them on top of, hey, we know you're struggling and we're also going to punish you by taking away the things that motivate you to actually come to school and do all of these other things, and we're going to take that away from you. I think that was a really good point. And I also wonder how this impacts your teachers, because it seems like teacher burnout. We continue to hear that teachers are leaving. There's this mass exodus of educators because we are putting too much on their plate. By telling them, hey, we no longer are requiring you to do after school tutoring, because that's oftentimes unpaid additional work, and it's taking them away from their families. It's taking them away from being able to grade or have parent meetings or anything else that they need to be doing at 4 o'clock. So we're freeing our teachers up, hopefully giving them some level of, okay, I've got some autonomy over my schedule again in the afternoon. So it does feel like maybe a win-win for both your students and your teachers. Would you say you've heard some similar feedback from your staff?
Well, I have to say, in terms of this particular program, our teachers have been fantastic. They're a partner in making this program successful. So we use this as part of an intervention. So if we recognize that a student, it's open to all. You know, we've contacted, we put it out through our guidance system. You know, it's on our website. We let everybody know that the hours are available, but our teachers are very connected to their students and very aware of who's struggling. They make it an intervention where they reach out to the student and the parent, let them know this is available. They can see who's showing up. They can see who's coming for the extra help. So it's very much a partnership. And I think it's a valuable program for them.
Oh, that's so good to hear. All right. How did you get the buy-in from students, parents, and faculty? So we started talking a little bit on the faculty side, and we've heard a little bit on the student side. What about the parents? How do they feel about this program?
You know, I think it's because it's an online program and they're doing it at home. The opportunity, parents are home, they can hear what's going on, they can see what's going on, they can see the quality of the instruction that they're receiving from the teacher that's on the other end. And I think it's the idea that their child is asking a question, a specific question related to them. They're not just sitting in a program where somebody's teaching. It may not necessarily fall on what they need to learn, but there is that back and forth exchange, and it's dealing directly with an issue or an area where they might be struggling. I also think, again, it is a partnership. Having our teachers reach out to the parents, let them know this is what's offered. This is the time. Oh, it doesn't work on Tuesdays. You know, we also have it on Thursdays. So it really was letting them know this is really a program that's here to help your child. There's no there's not a repercussion if you don't come to the program. The only repercussion is you're just not getting the help that you would need. So I think that the parents were happy to see that something was offered at a time that really worked for their child.
Yeah, that sounds wonderful. Is there any type of like metrics or grading or tracking of progress that parents have access to?
So we don't, the only thing that we provide to the parents is really on our own system when it comes to grades, what they're really able to see. So the program itself is fluid. So you may enter the program, you're there for a little while, you seem to do well, you can move on. And then we have other kids that have never, the program might have been running for 6 weeks and then they decided to come in because it's going to work for them. So the progress is really seen in their true assessments in the classroom. So they're completing their homework, their quizzes they might have, their assessments of a chapter test. So that's really how we monitor the progress of how well the students are doing. The district itself monitors who we focused on in terms of inviting them into the class, making the phone calls and reaching out, was any of our students who were scoring in their marking period grades of a 70 or below. 70 is not failing for us, but it was somewhere you might, one or two rough quizzes or an assessment, you could fall into that area. So we focused on those students, and in time, we were able to see that some of those students moved well up over the 70% marking period grade. Some of them are still in the class. Some of them felt confident. They got that skill that they were just not able to master. Some of them have mastered, so they've moved out of the class, and then new students have moved in.
Perfect. I love that you are proactively putting students in here who aren't necessarily failing yet, but might be those bubble kiddos, the ones who are on the verge of failing. And so I think that it's great that we're meeting them with where they're at before they get to a point to where it's detrimental. So would you mind sharing your district data since the program began?
Sure. So when we first took a look at it and we said, what is it that we're going to focus on here? My assistant superintendent for curriculum and instruction, our high school and middle school principal, and also our curriculum director for the secondary level, we laid out exactly what areas we needed to take a look at first. And again, we said we need to focus on mathematics. Mathematics is going to be where we're looking at our numbers. So I believe we began the program, I want to say in February. I want to say we started it in February in trying to make sure that where were we in this, we're in the second marking period, who looks like they're going to be struggling. So we took a look at those numbers. We offered math 7, math 8, algebra 1, which could also be in the middle school, geometry, algebra 2. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about a change that we had to make in mid-April. On those, for those, we saw that we had a number of students across the grade levels who were 70 and below For Math 7, for example, we started it with 20 students who we knew that needed additional help. And over time, we monitor our sessions. We've had those students come into our program. We've had those students, I'm just giving an example of Math 7. We've had those students come into our program, plus the additional students who just wanted that little extra bump. And if we look at the numbers now, we've had a 30% decline in those original 20 that came in. So overall, and that seems to be the case looking at all of our courses. It seems to be where those students, 30% of them have moved up beyond that 70 percentage points where we're looking at. Now, we don't truly monitor those that are in honors or AP that are coming to the classes. They're usually our A students. So it's just they're in there for themselves. But we have consistency, and then we do have those students who no longer are in the program, but it is fluid. So we might just have somebody in there for the last 3 weeks. So our data a little bit skewed in that it's not always showing the same, but it does show overall we have between it looks like a 30 and a 35% decrease in the original number of students who were in the program.
Oh, that's wonderful. I love that you all are tracking it in a way that makes sense for your district, and that there is still some flexibility in who gets access to the course. We know access is such an important, it's definitely an important factor when we're thinking about what we're making available to our students. And so, yes, we've got this opportunity for you to kind of hone your abilities and your skills in math. And although we do think that it's geared mostly towards our 70 and below students, you have access to it otherwise. And I think that's wonderful.
I just wanted to, I'm sorry, I just wanted to add something too. I had mentioned this. So in April, we took a look at, there was a specific subgroup that we were not able to really move. So we took a look at what that was, and we reached out and said, we need something more for our ESL students. So we did a little revamping of that program, and we've actually had our numbers were a little bit lower for who was in there to begin with. But since we started in April, and I want to say April 18th, so we started in April 18th, and what is this? I think it's, what is it, May? I don't even know what the date is. Well, last week of May, whatever it is, the last week of May, we did have 3 of those students move forward. They're no longer in that 70 range. So I think it's important to keep going back and revisiting. So now we had 30%, but why don't we have 40%, or why don't we have 50%? So what's that barrier? And again, that's really relying a lot on our own teachers. They're really the pulse on this in order to guide what needs to happen in the support classes.
For sure. Well, such a good point around special populations too. So we're talking about ESL students. What about special education students? Are you finding that they're also engaging in this program?
We are finding that it runs the gamut. It's all students from all levels are coming in and getting that extra help that we need. So we do find that that's also part of our population. For us, it's everybody. It's all of our students. So all are welcome.
Do you know if any of the proximity tutors have to look at IEPs or have any of those ARD meetings? Like, is that part of their scope of services with you as an after-school tutoring program or not?
No, we don't do that. We do what our students enter into the support program with is the issue or the skill that they're might find themselves deficient in. So they're working on that particular skill. We don't share that information with anybody outside of the district. So if you're a special education student, your IEP is kept confidential between that classroom teacher and the parent. So if a parent, again, you're home. So if a parent happens to notice something, they can always call. Some do, and say, listen, they're having an issue here, or I noticed this, and then we communicate with the teacher on the other end.
Perfect. So good to know, because I know people who are watching this might have some questions over the legality of it, but also the support. We want to make sure we're providing the right type of support. And even though this isn't a formal classroom setting with after school tutoring, are accommodations being provided, and how are we addressing those accommodations? So thanks for speaking to that. We did touch briefly before on asynchronous, but can you tell us a little bit more about why you feel like asynchronous wasn't necessarily the way to go?
I just really felt it wasn't working for our students. It wasn't working for our students because, again, it's the interaction. It's the ability to say, this is where I need help. Here's where I need support. This is what we did today. I just didn't get it. So it's the opportunity to instruct in real time. You know, if I'm on a program where I'm just being spoken to and I don't really have that interaction and, you know, I'm just listening to something again, it may not relate to me. And I think that students really lose interest in, you know, just watching something where it doesn't particularly relate to them and they don't have the opportunity to truly interact.
Absolutely. Have you found that whoever is delivering a particular math course, is it that same teacher the whole semester, or are there people coming in and out delivering the same course? Do you know?
For our district, it's been consistent. So it's consistent. We have somebody's logging on a Tuesday. They see that same person. They get to know each other. Somebody comes back and says, "How'd you do on that test? How was it?" So they get to know the students that are in there. You know, it makes the students feel comfortable, and they're happy to get on and say, "Listen, I did really well. You know, thanks so much," or whatever it might be. But they get to know each other. And listen, it takes a while. For those of us that have been in a classroom, you know, it takes a while to know somebody's personality and how you interact with them. So for our district, it's been consistent in not always the same person Tuesday, Thursday, but always the same person on a particular day.
Perfect. Yeah, I think that's also really helpful to know, because it does go back to one of the biggest benefits of using synchronous learning is relationship building, is that somebody can engage with you and learn who you are and how they can support you better. And when you have somebody just sit in front of a pre-recorded lesson, you miss out on that, and you don't have the opportunity to pause and correct misconceptions and ask questions and really gauge their understanding before continuing to move on. So it makes total sense that this is working better for your students. So we also talked a little bit about criteria for entering the program. We're looking at those students who are around a 70 and below. How do you know when it's time to move them out of the program?
So we don't actually move anyone out of the program. The ability to move out of the program always falls on the students. I will tell you again, I'm going to go back to the teachers and our guidance counselors. If we find that somebody hasn't come for a couple of weeks, you know, you'll make the phone call, what's happening. But it really is letting somebody know you're at a point now where you feel solid, the conversations go on, you feel solid, you're solid in that skill, and you're ready to move to the next area. You're ready to move on to whatever's going on in the classroom without having that struggle. So for us, there's not a true exit criteria, but if you were in the program and you moved forward and we went up, let's say to a 75, your marking period grade was a 75, the conversations are had with the teacher. If they begin to slide back towards a 70 again, we reach out to them. Maybe you should come back. What is it that you're struggling with? And then we go back to, you know, providing that support. So it's a very fluid program. I think it works well for the students because it allows them, there's no, you know, repercussion again, if you happen to not be able to make it. The only repercussion is perhaps you didn't do as well as you could have in your next, you know, homework or your next quiz. But we do keep a close eye on it. So once you start moving, you know, back towards that 70, then we reach back out to both you and your parents.
Yeah, perfect. So I know we've been focused really on math with your district, and I don't know if you might consider this almost a pilot program of sorts. We're going to try it and see how it goes. And do you have any, I guess, are you anticipating expanding the program to more than just math, or have you had those conversations around what this could look like to also include English language arts, for example?
You know, at this point, we are our next area that we're looking at is we're looking at the sciences. So we're looking at the sciences and seeing if that's something that we should consider. You know, we do have students who do very well. They're in physics, they're in AP physics, they're in honors chemistry, but then we have those that, you know, struggle with general chemistry and biology, and those classes, again, in New Jersey are requirements to graduate. So that is probably the area where we're going to focus on next to make sure that we have those options for our students as well.
Wonderful. Awesome. Thank you. Okay, so did you have to make any adjustments to the program along the way? So I know Proximity probably proposed it to you one way, you start to implement, and then it's totally normal to course correct. Did we have any of that with your district?
I think, Liz, we touched on it a little bit. It really is keeping a strong focus on once you've reached a goal in the program, we took a look and said, but these students are not. What's the issue here that we can look at? And again, it was looking at ESL. We did make adjustments to times, you know, on offerings. It's something that's offered in the winter is a little bit different when spring comes around. So, you know, we did have to make adjustments there. So it's taking a look at, it's always about the quality of what's being offered in the support program and the times. It doesn't matter if the program is amazing if it just doesn't work for those students and when they can get there. So if we've made adjustments to time, we've made adjustments to a particular subgroup, what they might need to help them succeed. So yes, I think it doesn't, this program, all programs have to be constantly monitored.
Oh, absolutely. And I feel like people who are watching might also wonder, the people who are tutoring your students after school, where are they getting the resources to tutor them? Are they following your curriculum and your pacing guides, or is there anything that is proximity bringing stuff to the table? So I'm just curious as to the resources that we're using.
So we provided to proximity and the instructors our curriculum and our pacing guide so that they're familiar with, our standards. They all know what the standards are in New Jersey. But to be honest with you, it really has to do with somebody walking into the classroom. We are all on a pacing guide. Doesn't matter. The student that's sitting in front of you, they're 4 lessons behind. They're 6 lessons behind. So they are familiar. They do know what our curriculum is. They do know the programs that we use. We've made that all available to them. But it really is about teaching, again, at that level. Meet that student where they are. So you might be teaching one skill to one student and another skill to another. We're all on the same pacing guide, but they may not be there.
Perfect. And are you requiring proximity's teachers to do any reporting to the district? And how are you keeping a pulse on the effectiveness of these tutors beyond just seeing the students perform better in class?
Well, we do. We have conversations with the tutors. How's it going in the classroom? Listen, even though you're online, there might be some classroom management. So we make sure we know what's going on in the classroom, who's attending, how often they're attending. If the teacher happens to notice something that's going on, with that particular student, it is not unusual for one of the instructors to say, I noticed this. And they have that conversation with someone in our guidance department. They might find out they're noticing it online. The teacher's also noticing in class, and maybe that's something else we need to take a look at. So there's open dialogue between the instructors for proximity and our guidance department.
Perfect. I love hearing that. So this is our last question. How has implementing virtual instruction influenced other cutting edge strategies your district now employs?
So we actually, I have to say, we have amazing teachers with amazing ideas, and we are looking at bringing in some other options that we just never had in the past. So unfortunately, in the state of New Jersey and across the country, there is a teacher shortage, and it's very difficult for us to get quality instructors that have the certifications. This allows us, like an online sort of platform, allows us to bring in programs that might not necessarily be available for an in-person learning opportunity. I know that we are in talks to bring in programs that are related to our world language or related to science that in New Jersey you just can't find the teacher. So this is another way to open up opportunities for our students for their electives that otherwise wouldn't be available.
Absolutely. Proximity does offer support for as far as full-time teaching goes, and absolutely not that we're trying to replace teachers. We're not trying to take the jobs of New Jersey teachers. We're not trying to create any type of friction there with our relationship with the schools and the districts that we serve. However, we do look at what we offer as a staffing solution. And so we do understand that there are these classrooms that simply don't have adults in there. And rather than put a warm body that's just an adult that might be a substitute or an aide or somebody who's just like, I'm a parent and I need to watch my kid in class today because nobody else is here to do it. We are able to live stream certified teachers into those classrooms so that you can still have that same high quality teaching experience that every student deserves. Even if you're in an area where teachers aren't there, if they're not physically able to be there, we can provide those teachers for you. But that's another conversation. If you're interested, definitely reach out and we'd be happy to talk to you about that some more. And before we move to our final slide with contact information, I would just love to hear from you, Dr. Noreen. How has your relationship with Proximity been? Specifically, I know your guy, Mike Koblin, is on this call right now. Tell me a little bit about what it looks like to have somebody like Mike on your side.
I have to say, any question that I have, any strange thing that pops into my mind, I have this idea, what do you think of this? Mike is always available to me. I'll run something past him. He might say, that's a great idea, except for this one part. What if we, and then we do a little molding. of the idea. I mean, I have to agree with you. There is no substitute for a live in-person teacher. The teachers are amazing, and there really is no substitute. But unfortunately, in the position that we're in, having somebody there who can offer another opportunity that otherwise wouldn't be available to the student. That's really how I look at, what that proximity can do. And I mean, for myself personally, I've had a wonderful experience with proximity. Again, I'll ask a question. I might have some, what do you think? Is this possible? And Mike and proximity will do anything they can to make it possible.
Oh, that's so wonderful to hear. Thanks so much. And thanks, Mike, for being on the call with us. I know we didn't hear much from you today, but we're just so glad to have you along for the ride. We want to thank everybody who's watching, whether you're watching live today or you're watching this recording afterwards. We are so grateful for the time that we've had with Dr. Noreen Lyshak today. Thank you so much for sharing your perspectives, your feedback. We are here to answer your questions. So we are so happy that we've got Mike Koblin's email on there. We also have my email on there. So please do reach out if you have any questions whatsoever. I know we'd all be happy to help you. And we hope that you found some value in our webinar today. This is the first of a 4-part series. So we also hope that you will join us for the next 3 episodes that we're going to be having as we continue to tackle some of the tough issues that we're seeing in the state of New Jersey right now. But we are here to support you, and we want to go over some of those possible solutions in the future. Again, thank you so much for your time, Dr. Noreen. It was a pleasure, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Thanks. Bye, y'all.